Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Card Lounge. It's your boy Robo Skills, and I'm here with
Twice Baked Jake.
And we've got a pretty interesting challenge to start off today's show. You know what? I was perusing the interwebs. Do you think you could voice a character from Pokemon?
Guys, Rob didn't tell me about this. That's the bit you
No,
want to... Okay, voice a character from Pokemon, like a specific one?
I'm saying, okay, I saw this clip of like a podcast where I don't think they talk about Pokemon only.
Okay.
But it went pretty viral. And I guess the challenge was, we know people that like voice, like Sarah Natacheni voiced Ash, right? Could you voice
Ash?
like a character like Ash Ketchum? Like, okay, be excited, and you are sending out your Pokemon to fight an Annihilate that you see in the wild. That's your setting.
Oh, man. So I'm Trainer Joey. What Pokemon should I send out?
Yes.
I'm going to assume that I'm going to have I'm going to say that if I'm a 10-year-old kid again, I'm fighting an Annihilate.
Right. And that's how you're making this show for kids. So you have to have the dramatized, like, this is you're a character in an anime, and you're sending out your Pokemon to battle.
You know what's funny? It's always when they have like a super unfair matchup, realistically, but somehow they still come out on top.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be Trainer Joey and I'll be like, go, Sobble, take on this Annihilate. Use Tackle. Sobble. And somehow that wins versus the Annihilate.
Wow, that's your character's... Your character's voice just sounded like your Sobble trying to talk human.
Maybe.
Like a meow. But your Sobble was actually pretty... Yeah, that's a pretty good...
I don't think a Sobble even says his name. Maybe it does. Some Pokemon say their name, and then other Pokemon just make growls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't all say their name.
I don't know why Pokemon went with that sometimes.
I think it's easier than making a voice for over 1,000 different Pokemon. Does that make sense?
That's true. They can have like a grunt or like a growl, and that just like even isn't like when Staryu comes out, Staryu doesn't go like Staryu. It's just it goes
Staryu says
hiya.
Hiya.
It's just like kind of like
a karate chop.
Like chop sounds.
Right.
Yeah.
Some Pokemon say their name. Like most of the main Pokemon, like I don't know, the ones that I think make sense.
Yeah.
Where they're a little bit more important. But then like an Arcanine or Tauros. Tauros just go or something. Like, wait, that's a bit too horse-like. But it does just make like it just makes a bull-like sound.
Right, a bull. Right.
And some
like Rapidash, I think just neighs like a horse.
Right.
It doesn't go like Rapidash. Rapidash
should. Rapidash just neigh. I think that's a little creepy. If Rapidash went Rapidash,
like
that sounds a little creepy.
That does sound kind of funny. Like if you're like Rapidash, use Flare Blitz, and it was like Rapidash.
Rapidash.
Yeah, it does kind of sound funny. But then for other Pokemon, it's so normal. Like Pikachu, like it just. He just goes out, and then when he's angry, he's like, Pikachu.
Right. Like, I like that Bulbasaur says his name, like, Boba.
Yeah.
Boba. It just sounds better than, like, if it made another sound, like a frog-like sound, I guess.
Correct. Which, I don't know, have you seen the new... You know what's so funny? We talk about the new Scarlet Violet Pokemon, but I guess because we're so disconnected from the anime that I don't really know if anyone knows what Fuecoco sounds like.
Okay,
does it go Fuecoco?
Okay, here's the thing. Yes, it does.
It does?
I think it does. But here's the thing, though.
You think it
I'm pretty confident it does. You never know anything for 100% around here. So I'm going to give myself like some wiggle room just in case it doesn't. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. If you played the Scarlet and Violet game, right? Mm-hmm. There's one detrimental. Well, there's a ton of detrimental issues. But the one you brought up, there's no voiceover at all, which I think is super detrimental to the Pokemon company because they have great voice actors, and the voices, like you and I just did, it brings all these characters to life. And in this day and age, like not having voice acting for any of these Pokemon or characters, it ruins it so much because I think the characters are great.
Right.
They just need to add some audio. You're just listening to
I agree.
Like in this day and age, you can't have that anymore.
Correct. Like when you see other games and how immersive, like like God of War, like how iconic some of the just the voice actors that go into video games now and how it builds like story depth. I mean, how much emotion comes through, which is why I feel like, you can watch certain scenes in anime and just from the voice acting, it tugs at your heartstrings, right? And Pokemon could kind of have a little bit more depth in their games if they just had. I mean, yeah, the people have like voice acting as they're talking to each other. And if the Pokemon said their Pokemon names, that would actually be kind of cool because we're so used to the Game Boy, like them having their own 8-bit like sprite sound or whatever. But why can't we just have the sound the Pokemon makes in the game? Yeah.
We can. They're just. I'm gonna be honest. It's just straight up incompetence. I love the Pokemon Company, but it's just straight up incompetence. They can.
I guess,
and it's to their benefits, right? Because people already love the Pokemon and the characters. Like, people really champion some of these characters.
Right.
And we have people that voice these characters. Like, Cynthia has an actual voice actor in the anime. Could they have her do a couple of lines in their game? They can, and they're just like, oh, we don't want to do that. Like, there's already someone tied to the voice. You could just hire them for a day.
Right. And it wouldn't cost them any, like the voice actors would probably be happy to do it.
But it builds up their IP so much. Like if they just did that a little bit more, suddenly these full art trainer cards that are worth like 89 cents, suddenly they might be worth like $3 or $4 when someone says, oh yeah, I remember that character. I really like them.
Right, because I played it in the game and like I remember connecting with like the voice or this Pokemon and like Golden Go. What if does
you call it Golden Gold? I call him Goldango. It just depends.
No, it's a Golden Go. Because he's a stack of gold that goes on
where? Where does the gold go?
On a surfboard. He's a moving. So he's a Golden Go.
Oh, I did
What's a Goldango?
Goldango. It's just the name of it. I don't know what it means. Some Pokemon have.
Let us know in the comments below if you call it Goldango or Golden Go. Golden Go.
Goldango.
That's what you call it?
Tomato.
Yeah, tomato. Yeah.
I don't know if there's an official pronunciation. The one good thing about the Pokemon Company, they don't really think too much about their pronunciations. They can go you can kind of get a lot of leeway, especially, and I did this as a recent poll too. I forgot to talk to you about it in the last episode, but I polled the viewers on how they pronounce Pokemon. I
think it's Pokemon.
Yeah. There's different versions because the one from the original song, the Jason sings. Yeah. It goes Pokemon. He really puts an emphasis on the key, and that's how some people remember it.
Really? Yeah. I thought he said Pokemon.
Does he say Pokemon?
Well, I know that. I think he says I know what you're saying though.
It's like a key.
Right. There's I've seen YouTube videos where there's certain advertisement where it's official from the Pokemon Company, and they kind of say Pokemon or Pokemon. I mean, honestly, it's how you emphasize any word in any moment to just stress I don't know, excitement or urgency can cause that slight tonal inflection.
Yeah, I say Pokemon because I'm just used to slightly more of the Japanese pronunciation.
Sure, yeah.
But some people really put an emphasis on the key instead of the K. And that's fine too. I don't have an issue with it either way. But some people if they hear the wrong one, they suddenly they twitch about it.
Yeah. I think as long as you don't say, I mean, yeah, if you're just, if you say Pokemon pretty fast, it just sounds the same anyway in conversation.
Every now and again, it doesn't happen too often, but I do get random comments where someone says oh, the way Jake says Pokemon just triggers me or something. They literally can't watch one of my videos because of the way I say Pokemon or something. And it just depends.
I feel the way you say it is normal.
Right, but there are people that really prefer a certain way.
Yeah. That's it is interesting because I do know for certain names like Rayquaza or Rayquaza, some people go. And you could argue I don't know, you hear it enough both ways that it's just whatever way rolls off your tongue easier, I feel.
How do you say Rayquaza or Rayquaza?
I say Rayquaza.
Rayquaza is the more popular one.
Yeah.
But I know some people who say Rayquaza because it's based on a quasar, right?
I guess, right.
So it's little stuff like that where we just decided to establish one. The one that I got butchered the most on was Rillaboom. I called it Rillaboom for the longest time because I just like Rillaboom.
Rillaboom, yeah.
I know, it's Rillaboom now. That makes sense to me. At least that one I can change. Yeah, but I just like calling it Rillaboom, and I did for the longest time.
Yeah.
If the Pokemon Company did voiceovers in the game and the voice actor said the name of the Pokemon in the game, boom, suddenly
then
No
there's like a
issue.
way. Yeah, then people just know how to say it. I do think it's odd because you know what? I'll say this. There are kids that know how to make the sound of like a Charmander, you know, Squirtle, Wartortle,
Sure.
Charmeleon. These OG. We can all kind of remember the sound of the OG 151 Pokemon and like their how they talk, like the sounds they make. And I just feel like for Scarlet Violet, I mean, like Quaquaval or Meowscarada, does Meowscarada say Meowscarada when it attacks? Or
I don't know. We'd have to watch
exactly.
the anime. It's technically
think-
out, but I haven't had a chance to catch up with it. But I
Yeah.
will. While you were talking about that, you reminded me of one thing.
What?
Charmander loses its voice when it gets to Charizard. You know, like when
Then
Charmander
it just roars.
Yeah, as Charmander just goes Char, and I like
Yeah.
that. And then once it becomes Charizard, it just goes roar.
Well, no, I mean, Charizard's a big dragon. I don't think
It would be
needs to go,
goofy
like,
for it to say Charizard.
yeah, it would. Yeah.
Magmar says its name Magmar, and that's fine. It just depends. It's
That is
interesting to
true.
see like the little creative choices where what Pokemon they decide to give a voice and not.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Charizard just like roaring or like whatever. I feel like a lot of the bigger dragon type Pokemon, or I guess not even dragon type, just like the big Pokemon,
It's
just
true.
kind of like, you know, other than Snorlax, because Snorlax does go Snorlax. But outside, you know, like Dragonite doesn't say Dragonite. It just has like a
I see a little
sound.
no, I agree with you. I see a little trend is that like for the smaller Pokemon, they tend to
Give
say
it
their
the
name
voice,
and
right.
for like the larger legendary or bigger Pokemon,
right.
they tend to focus on the emphasis that it's more of a monster rather
Right.
than like a child.
Yes, so it roars or growls, and
Maybe that's it.
I
Maybe
think that's the distinction on how.
Wow,
to-
we just learned something. It would
Yes.
be cool to bring on a voice actor, which we probably will at some point on the podcast anyway.
Yes, we will at some point. Someone hit us. Sarah hit us up. Someone that voices for Pokemon. It would, you know, I'm trying to think of how many people have like gone to Collecticon or that like we've met in the Pokemon anime. Because I feel like there's a lot of voice actors for Pokemon. They'll voice not just one character.
Oh
but
yeah,
like
they voice like a
20.
dozen. Like,
yeah, you know.
They
'Cause
just do 20 voices. It's
yeah,
just easier that
you'll
way.
be like, here's your be this human and maybe be this kind of other human and then voice 20 Pokemon for us. And I feel like we could do that. Like, could we not voice like a Pokemon?
We could.
Yeah.
One day. Well, one day the Pokemon company is going to hire us and we're going to guest star as Staryu and
One day.
Psyduck. You're going to be Staryu, I'm going to be Psyduck.
No, but they already have someone that goes like Hiya and Psyduck.
We'll just do one. Psyduck.
That's a pretty good Psyduck. You know
got
what?
it.
I'll just take if there's a new Pokemon that comes out, it would be cool to voice, just to say like, oh, I got to voice a Pokemon.
They're definitely still making more Pokemon, but they're definitely lowering the amount. I think
Yeah.
with each new games, they're creating more, but less so. But they're reiterating on a lot of the older ones, which I think is the right call because there's only so many Pokemon that you can like your brain can handle. You know
I
what I
know.
mean?
I
And
know.
we're reaching the point where if I don't for certain Pokemons, I recognize them, but I'm like I don't remember your name. I don't even remember 1,000 Pokemon's name.
Right. Well, that's the thing. They're also running out of animals to kind of
There's
alter
a ton of
into
repeats.
Pokemon.
There's so many
Yeah.
dogs, cats,
Dogs,
rodents,
cats,
Yeah.
spiders. They've had to
Horses.
repeat spider now,
tons of them. Yeah.
and it's interesting. Now they've moved on to like inanimate objects. Like
We had inanimate objects, even in like Gen 1. We had like, you know,
Well,
Mach and like a Magnemite and Voltorb. They,
no, but see yeah, I guess he's just like a pile of sludge. But you know, it's different from like. I mean, like Vanillux is just like an ice cream cone.
right. People
know?
still make fun of that. It's like
Yeah.
there's still Pokemon that's like Flamigo. It's just a Flamingo. Like stuff like that.
Yeah, you know what? And that is weird because they didn't even give it some sort of like alternate, like the way it's designed is just like a flamingo. Like they could have, I don't know, called it really anything where there's like give it some twin blaster cannons on its shoulders like Blastoise or something. Like give the Pokemon some like, I don't know, creative, make it different from a flamingo.
Okay. Here's a question for you. And I got a bunch of questions. I just like pop quizzing you.
Okay.
All right. Pop quiz. What type is Flamigo?
It's a flying type, right?
And
And a normal type.
it's a fighting type.
Really?
It's a fighting type.
It's a flying fighting type?
I know, which is so funny. I knew that one would trip up some people because I don't see it as a fighting type, but it's kind of fun that they throw it in there.
Is it really?
Oh yeah, it's got one of its legs moves up and it's a fist.
It's a fist. I don't see any kids putting Flamigo on their team of 6. Just seems like a Pokemon that's there. But yeah, I am curious to see if, like with the new game coming out, I guess, do you think there's going to be new Pokemon with Legend ZA, since now that they've announced that they're at least, they are bringing new Pokemon in the sense there's going to be new Mega Evolutions, which I'm kind of excited for.
Yeah, a lot of people are excited. And because Mega Evolutions, I also polled this like a year ago, it's the most popular gimmick by far. It's not like even a close margin. So it's like Mega Evolutions get like 90% of the votes, and all the other gimmicks like Terrastalize and Gigantamax, Dynamax, and Z moves from Alola. That was the gimmick from Alola.
Right.
And all these other gimmicks, they get like 3% of the vote, but everyone loves the Mega Evolution.
Megas from XY.
Because it's like you're taking a Charizard and you're sprinkling spice on top of it to make it even spicier.
Make it newer. Well, that's the thing. I've always thought, I mean, I get how it's a gimmick. Like, I get why you're using that word.
Right.
But truly, like, Scarlet Violet, putting on different hats that turn you crystal and change your type, it's not, like, that's really a gimmick. It's not really bringing much to the Pokemon, like, I don't know, like so they all have these different like hats and they're all the same for the Pokemon. They all look the same, and it's like, oh, if you're turning this Dragonite to an electric type, it'll have a light bulb on its head. Like, it's just kind of like, that's not really well designed. Instead of just going, let's give a Mega Evolution to Dragonite and make him look cooler, There's two thoughts on it. The first one is, I actually think from the gameplay perspective, it's really cool that any Pokemon can sort of have any type. Because it makes it so that there's so many different varieties from a gameplay perspective. Correct.
And from that point, there's a design perspective, is how did you design it so that every single Pokemon has a new type, but make it really obvious what that type is, right?
Yeah.
So they decided to go with like this giant bulbous, it's a signal basically saying, hey, this dark Pokemon is now an electric type.
Right.
Remember that. Like, you got to beat them over the head with it, that this Pokemon is now a new type.
Yeah,
and that's the part of the design, is how do you make it obvious while... So
still keeping it fun. I see what you're saying. Yeah, from a gameplay perspective, I get how that can, like if you got a Flareon and then your opponent sends out a Vaporeon, but your Flareon can Terrastalize into an electric type and then it has the light bulb on its head, now suddenly you're super effective against the Vaporeon. That was the whole concept. But I feel like they could just do something with like, I don't know. You know how like in Delta Species, like in the card games, they like did switch
It's pretty
typing?
much, it is just straight up Delta Species.
It just is that, yeah. I don't know. I feel like the designs could have been a little bit, they could make that like obvious, but in a different way. But, to your point, Mega Evolutions, I think it just fits with the storyline of Pokemon. There's like, Pokemon already evolve. They look cooler and cooler as they, evolve. And now let's give them this new cool looking form that's a Mega Evolution, and only certain Pokemon can do it. And so I think people will be excited for that.
When Mega Evolution originally came out, a lot of people felt a little vindicated because it ultimately meant, Digimon had it right. It said Pokemon can evolve, but then like be reverted back, which is how Digimon has it. Right. You can evolve into multiple different branches, and the great thing about Mega Evolution is they can make as many as they would like. So we have 2 Mega Evolutions for Charizard, for instance, right?
Mewtwo has 2.
Yeah, but now they can, if they want a third from Mewtwo, they technically can. They sort of have the creative freedom and flexibility to sort of do whatever they want.
Right.
And that's part of why what makes Mega Evolution kind of cool. And people, when you go to fan art, there's like thousands and thousands of different designs because you can get as creative and as fun as you want with them, which is why people are really excited for some of these. The Mega Evolutions are kind of hit or miss. Some of them look great. Some people like say like Mewtwo got the short end of the sticks. They did the Mewtwo evolutions don't look that cool. Yeah, it kind of went the Majin Buu route,
Right, where they just kind of like make different parts of him different sizes, I guess. Yeah.
But they can get really cool, so I'm excited to see what these new Mega Evolutions are. I do think this is cool. This episode is brought to you by Misprint.com, the only graded Pokemon card marketplace where you can actually know your card's true value. Seriously, if you're buying or selling slabs and you're not using Misprint, you're probably leaving money on the table.
Misprint tracks real-time prices and historical data for graded Pokemon cards, and it's completely free. No subscription, no paywall. You just go on the site and instantly see what your cards are actually going for across the market. It's like having a price guide that updates all the time. And if you're selling, it's one of the fastest and most efficient ways to sell and list your slabs. Their image scanner is absolutely wild. You can literally take a single photo of up to 20 PSA slabs and it'll read the labels and autofill the listings for you. It's fast, it's clean, and it actually works. And on top of that, Misprint has the lowest seller's fee in the game. Just a 7% flat fee plus a standard 3% for payment processing. No surprises, just a super transparent system that respects both the buyers and the sellers. And here's the part I really like. They're not just sitting on a marketplace, they're actively building events into the platform like Misprint Misprice, a weekly feature where you can scoop up underpriced listings for as low as $5. It's all created by the team at Ava's Binder, real collectors who know how annoying and inefficient this space can be and are actually doing something about it. So whether you're deep in the hobby or just starting to flip your first few slabs, check out misprint.com and finally know your true value.
From my understanding, we're getting one more year of Scarlet and Violet. Is that rumor has it technically Scarlet and Violet is a 4-year block, which is the first one we've had in a while. Is that they're not gonna normally we should expect a new series of game by next year. But I remember Scarlet and Violet was not well received because of the amount of bugs and the lag and all this stuff with the actual game.
Right.
So I think they're taking an extra year to cook up the new generation of Pokemon.
Right. And then, because they don't want it to release and have it be, like buggy and full of...
I'm excited for this, and I hope the next game they don't fuck it up. Let's just say that.
Yeah. I mean, well, as long as they make it a little bit more like crisper and tighter, and I guess, with Scarlet and Violet. See, so that's interesting with how this is also going to affect the cards, though, because for, usually like a card block, it's like 3 years, right?
Exactly 3. It's been 3 years for a long time.
For a long time. So what's interesting, though, is did you hear the thing? I can't remember where I got the news of it from, but it was like, because Legends ZA is coming out, they were going to... For the Pokemon cards, like the sets wouldn't be like Scarlet Violet and whatever the set name is. It's like they were gonna end Pokemon Scarlet Violet and then do Pokemon Mega or something like that.
It might be Pokemon Mega for 1 year. They've done that for a couple of series like Heart Gold and Soul Silver, or I don't know, like Platinum or something. For some series, they throw in the series for 1 year.
Wait, what did they do? Wait, for Heart Gold, Soul Silver,
it didn't last 3 years like every other kind of modern generation. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, well
like XY had 3 years, Sword and Shield had 3 years, Sun and Moon had 3 years, Scarlet and Violet were on year 3.
The cards though for Heart Gold, Soul Silver,
they didn't last 3 years.
That was when when Gold and Silver were out though, right?
Right, which makes sense, and they're going to do that for Legends ZA, but we can't have 3 years of Legends ZA, is what I'm saying.
No, correct.
So we'll probably have 1 year of Mega.
I know, but that's usually just because I guess it just depends on what they define Legends ZA. Are they saying Legends ZA is going to be a mainstream game? Because Legends Arceus wasn't, and it's not like there were cards that were this is Legends Arceus, but right in Sword and Shield they just there were Legends Arceus or Hisuian cards in
for a year.
Brilliant Stars, Lost Origin.
Right. They did a year, maybe 2 of like Arceus or do you call it Arceus? I call it Arceus. There we go.
That's I guess that's another one. I say Arceus, but I guess what I'm saying is is it Arceus? I guess it could.
It's up to
you. I
you.
don't know. Everyone says it.
I'm not gonna mess over anyone's pronunciation.
But see, this is what I'm saying though. The distinction being when those cards were in Brilliant Stars, Lost Origin, Astral Radiance.
Sure.
It was still Sword and Shield, Brilliant Stars. Yeah, Sword and Shield.
I think they will do a year for whatever this new series. I think they could call it a 4th year of Scarlet and Violet.
Right. Will it be called Scarlet Violet blah, blah, blah for the set?
They did that. Do you remember the break cards? They did a year of XY, and then every set had the word break in it for a year.
Oh, Breakthrough,
Breakpoint, all of those ones. They could do a series of Scarlet and Violet
Mega
whatever.
Rumble
Mega Rumble.
Star. Yeah.
Mega Break for you.
Mega Break. Wait. How many break? But there were only those 2 sets though. Breakthrough and Breakpoint.
Yeah, but they can make 4. I mean, like, it's whatever, you know.
I see
There's
what you're
no
saying.
rules. They could do Scarlet and Violet Mega Punch. I don't know.
Mega Punch.
Mega Evolution or
Yeah.
Mega Evo. I don't know. They could call it whatever they want, but they could do a year of it if they want.
Right.
I don't know if they want to keep the Scarlet intact. They could just call it. They usually like to because it's the Anne. I don't know. They just want Scarlet and Violet, Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield. They want something that and something because Legends EA is just a single game. They can't do that, so they might just do Scarlet and Violet Mega. With adjective or something.
Right, and call it the yeah. It'll be interesting. I think also what I'm sure a lot of the listeners are also excited for. Bringing this to the card game means we are going to get mega Pokemon cards again.
Yeah,
and we've talked about in previous episodes how we already kind of have noticed older like mega evolution cards, which. Okay, I'm just going to say this. I look back at some of those. I have some in my collection, even basic, like there's a Mega Sharpedo card, like Mega Sharpedo EX. I think that card looks fantastic.
Sure.
Like when you just look at it, the texture on it, like how it looks, it's Mega cards are really I feel kind of underrated, to be honest.
And if you looked at the prices on the card, which I did a video on it because after the announcement from Legends EA, a bunch of the cards did start spiking slowly, especially the graded cards because they're so rare in a 10.
Yeah.
Because not a lot of people graded them. Those are the cards where the population report's well under 100 PSA 10 copies.
Oh, man.
And they're going for, like thousands now.
Well, see, and then it's funny because we're already paying thousands for Scarlet Violet and Sword and Shield hits, these alt arts that are way higher in pop. So then it's like now people are course correcting. You go back to XY, you're like, oh, there weren't a lot of Mega Sharpedos in a 10. So I think mine is a 10, and it's like when you look at the pop and how low it is, you're like, should this card only be like, I'm pretty sure I picked it up for only like $160 at one point.
It's a niche market right now. There aren't a ton of collectors for it, but the ones that are into it, they're going to pay top dollars because it's that rare. So it's where you want to hold the card, right?
Yeah.
Because we talked about this. Like if you have a Umbreon V Max, you can find a buyer for that any day of the week. There's 100 people raising their hand to pick that up card, but there might only be 2 people wanting that Mega Sharpedo, but those 2 people they might fight each other for it. And that's part of the experience is that sometimes you have like a super niche and exclusive card. It might sit for a year, but when the right buyer comes around, they might be willing to pay top dollar. It just depends on how much you perceive your cards, because that happens to me all the time where someone will ask me like, hey man, how much does this error card worth? Or something, and it's whatever someone's willing to pay for it.
Yeah,
like
that's what it's
Pokemon
worth.
cards don't really have a set price point. People like to say it as like, oh, that card is exactly $50, but no, to the right person it might be $60, and to the wrong person it might be $40. It just depends.
Yeah. I think that is something that, when people always ask me like, oh, what's this card worth or the value of it? I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, right? Yeah, any card is worth what someone will pay for it. And so, us, like, I think one thing that you and I are really good at though is maybe looking at a card, just straight kind of just looking at the artwork, knowing how rare it is, knowing what set it comes from and how expensive those packs are to open to try to pull that card. You kind of get like and I think this just comes with veteranship in the game, right? Like you kind of get a general sense of where that card should be. And maybe it's about like kind of what you're saying. The range that someone would pay on a card, if you can figure out that range pretty well, you may not be able to just say like, oh, this card should for sure be around $400 or $450. But you could see maybe someone selling it at a certain price and be able to readily identify, oh, I think someone would pay more for that. So I think it's undervalued, or see it being too high, like how the Drowsy was for a long time. And we're like, oh, I think that's a little overvalued.
There's this one card on eBay. Yeah, they call it the LeBron James Gengar, okay? This guy calls it the LeBron James. Someone owns it.
Okay.
It's a Gengar. It's the holographic Gengar from a very vintage set where the Gengar is just smiling and looking down.
So Skyridge.
Yeah, and it's got its hand, and it's holding onto a holographic ball.
Yeah.
One of the holographic pattern just looks like it's touching its ball.
I know what you're talking about.
So the guy markets it as it's holding a basketball, so it's called like the LeBron James Gengar. And, you know, it's like the Cheetos Charizard or something. If someone's willing to pay top dollar for a very specific holo pattern on a card, it is what it is. So I think he has that card going for like 12 grand best offer, and maybe someone will pay 10 years down the line, but that's part of the fun of it, is that if you have just the right swirl, you've seen it where like they have like a swirl near its butt and it looks like it's farting, and like there's like it's a farting Charizard or something.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, fart swirls do give a little extra, you know, bonus value to your cards. I mean, I think anything from like a fart swirl to a swirl that's like just, there's definitely like, if a swirl placement is very good on the card.
If it looks like the Charizard is like roaring out the swirl or something,
from
like
his mouth.
Like
yeah, as opposed to it just like being halfway off the picture frame of the card. It does make the card look aesthetically better, so people will pay a higher price for that card versus a different copy where the swirl is like only kind of half visible and like covered by something else in the picture.
Sure, like you and I, we might say, oh, that's not really worth anything. Like a normal person, for instance.
Sure.
But to the right collector, they might think that's the coolest thing in the world. And if they're willing to pay top dollar, it is what it is. I think that's what makes it fun, is that when you and I go to a vending show or something, we can talk to another collector and we can have a debate pretty much, or a conversation on what we think the value of a card is. Like, oh, you know, this corner's a little bit more whitening. Can you give me $20 off? Like we're having that conversation, and that's part of the fun. There's no right or wrong to it. And I think that conversation of talking about the card and the condition of the card is an interesting conversation where we land on a price.
Definitely. You know what, that kind of reminds me, there's certain cards where you know, they're called holo bleeds, and like the holographic kind of like the shine and the stars bleeds through the actual print of the card.
I've seen those cards. They happen quite often, actually.
I think those cards look beautiful because like the whole card then kind of looks like a full holo, like a diamond almost. And there's some that I know, like certain collectors out there, I'm so jealous of. Like, there was one that you know, TCG Garage?
Yeah.
Like there was a card that I think it was like an XY Evo Charizard, and I was like, oh man, she got the coolest. Like, there's a holo bleed.
XY Evolutions has a ton of holo bleeds.
Yeah.
It happened a lot with that set.
And I have a Charizard that I found at I think I was at like a Pokemon regional when I used to like play professionally, and I found an XY. It wasn't like super bleedy, but when you bring the card out in the sun, it looks so cool. And I'm like, yes, this card someone would pay way more for than just a regular XY Evo Zard in the same grade because of just how it looks.
That's a good example, because my opinion is that I think it looks ugly. I don't like holo bleed cards. To me, that's
you're wrong.
To me, that's an error or a damage card. To me, like I
No.
know, I would value it less, and that's to the right collector like you. You think it's the best thing in the world. For me, if I see that card, I'd rather have the near mint regular version. I don't want the holo bleed version.
All right, then you find the holo bleeds and we'll trade.
Right.
And then we'll both be happy.
Right, that's the idea.
That's the beauty of trading.
If I can find holo bleeds at a vendor hall and I can argue with them and say, hey, this card is not worth the same as a near mint, and I get a good deal on it, it is what it is.
Sure.
And I've seen some comments sometimes where people are like, oh, Jake, you're ripping that person off. No, like that's part of the conversation is I don't think that card is worth as much as that person thinks.
Yeah.
And if they're willing to let it go for less and we shake hands on it, it is what it is.
That's the deal,
But if I can trade this card, which I don't think is that special to you who thinks it's spectacular, then that's fair too.
Yeah, right? No, well, yeah, because we're both, that's how you want trades to go. It's like you think you're getting a good deal for your trade, and I think I'm getting a good deal. I think there's a lot of different like little things like that, like the error cards, the holo bleeds that just, that's also what kind of makes Pokemon card collecting so fun, right? Because there's no wrong way to collect. It's like everyone has their preferences, everyone has their little things they're trying to collect. Some people like cards that are super messed up, or are super off center, maybe have like an interesting error like within the card, like physically. And so it's like, and that's why opening up a pack is so exciting, because you'll open up stuff and you'll never know what you're gonna get inside.
I think I told you about this recently, but while I was sorting through some bulk cards that you have, because Rob has a ton of bulk cards, and I was sorting through them and I found an Eevee, a first edition Jungle Eevee. But the first edition stamp, it had a little bit of a tail.
Oh, yes.
And apparently, like that tail error just makes it worth like hundreds of dollars more.
Yeah.
Because I've seen them. There's like 3 or 4 on eBay, which is not a ton.
Where is that, by the way?
It's
You
in
put
the
that
other
in a
room.
different...
It's
okay.
in the other room. But
Cool.
anyway, the point of it is that like that's something that someone easily misses.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't know that was an error. You didn't really see it either until like someone spots it.
Yeah.
And something else similar happened, which is the other day I was just sorting through a Japanese mystery box that I bought, and inside there was an electrode without the rarity stamp on it. And that makes it go from being a $1 card to like a $40, $50 card.
What, was it a hollow or a non-hollow?
It was a non-hollow electrode.
Okay,
and
with no jungle symbol.
Yeah, it just didn't have the rarity symbol.
Oh, the rarity symbol.
Yeah, it's missing. It's a no rarity error.
Okay.
Where it's just missing the rarity stamp.
Right.
And someone in chat or who's watching the video caught that and said, "Hey, Jake, there's a no rarity symbol on that card. It's worth more." And I looked at it. I was like, "You're right. That makes this $1 card goes to being like a $40 card."
That's cool. Yeah.
But whoever sorted that mystery box didn't even know it.
Yeah.
You know, like someone put that card in there without recognizing that that's a $40 card. But that's how people value some errors now.
And you know what's so funny? So guys, that's also a way, especially when you're just getting into the hobby. I think having knowledge, doing research, going online, trying to learn these little things is really helpful so that when you go to a card show and maybe there's a booth that just has like bins out and they're just like, here, buy all my bulk Pokemon cards. You can look through bins and you can, it's like sifting through, putting in the work and using your knowledge to find the buried treasure, right? Like there's little chunks of gold hidden, everywhere, all over card shows. And it's like, are you willing to kind of, sift through 100 cards to find that one card that's an error card? And then, it's like, oh, okay, if they're asking for, $1 on it, you can buy it. And then you're like, oh, wait, I think this is one that's worth more than that technically,
And I'm of the mind that, hey, if someone has a giant box of bulk and they say every one of these cards is 25 cents or $1, and you sort through that and you find a $50 card, and they're willing to sell that card for $1, then it is what it is.
Right.
I'm not gonna say like, hey, I think this card is worth $50. And some people think like from a moral perspective, you should.
But, I know
that's
what you're
dependent.
talking about.
That's completely fine.
I mean, if
I'm gonna take that card for $1 just because I put in the work for it.
I think there's different like obviously if like if a kid's like out trying to in front of his house, like I'm selling my cards and he's like got a holographic Charizard, labeled as $1. Guys, give the kid more than just $1. But like there, we go to so many shows where it's just like a bunch of guys that, maybe found a bulk bin of cards like in their attic and they're just like, they just want these to go. They just want to get rid of them. And they're not going to spend the time to research and like look up each card and try to value them and put them into different binders to organize them by price. And so you can go to these types of like vendors, and if you're willing to put in the work and sift through and find the gold, then that is how you can get cards for cheap, and then you can sell those cards for what they're actually worth. And that's kind of how, just using your own hobby money, you can kind of expand in the hobby and grow your collection,
And I think that's fantastic is that you and I have done the same thing, which is we go to trade night, and in trade night, you can literally just exchange value. Is that you can trade a $5 card for a $10 card and take that $10 card and trade it to someone else for $15. Like in that little span, you can trade up. This is literally the trade up challenge, but it actually does work during trade night. But that's part of the fun, is that you guys get to talk and converse and decide these exchanges. And everyone's cool with it.
And I get it because, I've been in this situation where maybe someone has like a $600 card that I want, and maybe I'm just, I've spent so much, or like I don't have $600 cash available, but I have all these other cards that like maybe are in my collection I don't care about as much, and maybe 5 or 6 or 7 PSA 10s of like a, $100 card, 120, 140, and let's say it adds up to 625 in value.
Sure.
Well, I'm trying to hold on to cash right now. The guy would maybe sell me the slab for $600, or I can look at him and go, hey, look, this is more value. This is $625 in Pokemon cards. If you're just trying to sell your slab for value anyway, if you take all mine, now they're taking on the responsibility of trying to sell more slabs. But if they successfully do it, they will make more money than if they just sold that one slab. And you want that one card for your collection. You're not trying to spend actual money on it. So you're willing to trade at like maybe a little bit more value to just get that card without having to spend any money on it.
Right. That actually happened recently in that I bought a card from a vendor and I showed it to you and you said, whoa, Jake, I wouldn't have bought that. I don't think it's worth it. And I'm going to tell you the story, okay?
Wait, what card?
I'll tell you.
Okay.
Is that I went to a card show and I took home a Team Magma's Groudon, okay? I bought a Team Magma Groudon and I bought the card for $50 and it was damaged. It was a damaged Team Magma Groudon for $50.
Okay.
And you said, hey, oh, that was a bad deal because that card is damaged. And I said, oh, well, the worst Team Magma Groudon you can find online is still over $100. And I thought that was a good deal. And that's part of the conversation is you might be saying, oh, I don't want to buy any card that's bent. And I think, oh, someone might just want that as a binder card. So that's like the little conversation that we have is if you saw that card at the vending table, you wouldn't have even picked it up. But I see the potential there, and that's just like little stuff like that where we might make the right calls sometimes or the wrong calls, but that's part of the fun is that we see different things.
Right. Well, to your point, I guess if you find the right person that's trying to fill out the binder and maybe it looked very presentable from the front to where, they're not trying to get it graded or slabbed up. It's just like a nice binder copy. Then I get why you'd pick that up for $50 because someone that just wants that card in their binder isn't going to try to, to your point, it's like impossible to find a near mint copy. And if they were going to try to hunt one down, maybe it might cost them $800 or $900. And it's like, that's a lot more expensive than, I don't know, $50.
Sure. Like, I'll be frank, like that card in a PSA 10, I think there's like 19 copies of, and it's going for like $9,000 or something, something ridiculous, which is fair. Like this is a damaged copy. Like it might be worth like $100 or something to someone, to the right person, which makes sense.
Well, did you end up selling that card?
No, I still have it.
Oh, okay.
But we'll see. Like I have lots of cards in my collection, and you do too, that sit around for like 10 years without doing anything, and then suddenly we're like, oh yeah, we have that card.
We should sell this.
Yeah, but it might be worth something down the line.
Maybe someone in the comments will comment being like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to find a Team Magma's Groudon
in a damaged condition, completely bent. But Jake, you got it.
You know what's so funny? Also, the ability to like, if you can expand your reach to find certain cards, like. Okay, this isn't even a Pokemon card. This is a One Piece card.
Sure.
I'm still trying to find the English One Piece, like the 25th anniversary. It came from a 25th anniversary folder. Brook.
Okay.
The Brook.
25th anniversary?
Yeah, where they all kind of have the same style, kind of like a silverish background, and it's like a promo card that came from a folder. And
is One Piece 25 years old? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't know One Piece was 25 years old.
Yeah, One Piece is just as old as Pokemon.
I know. That makes pretty sense. It did come out in the 90s. It's still ongoing.
Yeah. It's still the show is still ongoing. But I'm looking specifically for the BGS 10 Black Label Brook.
Right.
And what's funny is I think it's a Pop 1.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you go about? Maybe we can talk about this.
Well, if it's a Pop 1, you have to grade it yourself. No one's going to sell it to you.
Well, no, that's not true. I mean, someone could have someone could have graded that folder and they just happen to hit a black label on that card.
I agree with you, but I think whoever has that single black label, they're not going to let it go for cheap. I think that card is one of those cards where the option is to grade it. You have to try to get your own black label because finding that one person who has that one black label, it's a diamond in a haystack, right?
Well, I mean, but they might be watching this podcast or someone.
Okay, well, call it out.
Well, yeah, or someone might know the person that graded it, and that person might be watching the podcast.
Yeah.
Or like, that's how you got to send this stuff out. I'm curious what your tactics are, whether it's a Pokemon card or a One Piece card. I guess we could put the image on. It's a black label BGS 10.
I'll put it on a wanted poster.
Yeah, on a wanted poster. The Brook. I'll show you which one I'm talking about. And it's kind of the last piece I need to complete like the BGS 10 black label set because I have the rest. So it's like, and so someone out there has one.
Sure.
I've tried to grade my own. And
it's not easy.
You got to find the perfect copy, and I guess the folders I have just didn't have the perfect copy. I graded a couple other black labels, But I'm curious, when you're looking for a specific Pokemon card, whether it's raw or graded in a specific grade, what are some of the strategies you implement in trying to, go to certain groups or marketplaces to hunt down a card, which may be like the last thing in a set or like a collection goal that you're trying to accomplish?
Sure. Okay. So I actually had this experience recently with my Buzzwole cards. Which I wanted to collect every single Buzzwole card in a PSA 10. All right. The complete set of every single card. It's actually going really well.
Are you still on that mission?
Yeah. It's going to take a little while, but it's going really well.
And
we
you
actually
did
got
that
most of them
just
already.
because you said here on the podcast that you were going to do that.
Honestly,
now you're doing
it's a meme, but it's actually a pretty affordable meme. It's only cost me like $1,000 so far.
And it's challenging in a way that it's like...
Okay, maybe $1,000 is still quite a bit, but still.
I mean, yeah. Well, to get every single Buzzwole card, that seems pretty cheap.
I know. I think it's actually underrated.
Yeah.
Guys, I found out something recently about Buzzwole. It's the #1 most popular Pokemon in Japan that came out of the Alola region. Out of all Alola Pokemon, Japan voted Buzzwole as their favorite Pokemon from the whole entire region.
It is kind of funny. It's a buff mosquito.
They really like it for some reason, and I think that's hilarious that it was voted #1. But
Buzzwole
Japan's opinion's completely different.
Buzzwole needs more love, though.
Sure.
Like, Buzzwole is a hilarious... That is a better Pokemon design, a buff mosquito that's like a fighting type, than a Flamigo that's just looks like a flamingo that does nothing.
Sure. I don't know if they'll ever reprint the Ultra Beast, so it might be a fun little era to collect. At least I'll say that. But I had the same experience, which is I wanted to collect every single Buzzwole card in a PSA 10.
Right.
And I had to think about it like, okay, do I want to buy a bunch of raw copies and grade them myself, or do I want to go the already graded route? And for a lot of the Buzzwole cards in a PSA 10, they're going for between $30 to $50. And I'm like, at that price, it's a no-brainer. I'm just going to pick up the slab. It's not that expensive. The amount of lift that you have to do to grade some cards, if it's really high, it might just be worth it to grade to have the slab.
Right.
If it already exists as $30, $40, you might as well just pick up the slab. But if a card is really old or really hard to find, mint copies of. Wait, where was I going with this? Okay, for older cards, you have to buy the graded cards. You're never going to find mint copies of them anymore. Does that make sense?
Right.
But for modern cards, I would grade them myself all day long.
I see what you're saying.
If I want an illustration rare in a PSA 10 and it came out in the Scarlet and Violet era, most likely I'm going to grade it myself because there's so many plentiful options for near mint copies. If you go online, you'll probably find one that is PSA 10 gradable.
Yes.
But for older copies, it's impossible. You're never going to find a perfect copy.
It's harder to find. You got to find people that like took very good care of their cards when they were younger and maybe still have just like kept track of their binder.
Right.
I mean, this is how you get new cert PSA 10s though and BGS 10s is people find older raw copies of cards all the time and get them graded, and then that's how they add to the pop report. Although I will say there's definitely like, as we know, it's like PSA grades much harsher now, so it's like what they would have given a 10 on for a vintage card maybe like 5-10 years ago. I mean, certainly even just like 5 years ago, now they'll put a 9 on it.
I would never rip open like an XY Evolutions booster box or a Flashfire booster box to try to find a mint copies of those cards. It's just like that's truly so challenging and hard.
Yeah.
Each one of the Flashfire booster boxes is going for like $5,000 each. You would have to open up 4, which is what, $20,000 to find like a mint copy of one card inside of that set. Like it's impossible.
And you know what's so funny? The XY, there was like so many problems and issues with print lines and like, so XY Evo, for example, you know what I just recently picked up for my personal collection?
The Charizard in PSA 10?
Which one?
I don't know, the XY Charizard, I suppose.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I guess that's why you're getting... I don't have that in a PSA 10. I do want that at some point, but it's still kind of like pricey, and I'm wondering if it'll go down because...
It's been going down slowly.
You know what's so funny? You know what card used to be worth more than that, or maybe just equivalent to it in XY Evo in a PSA 10?
Which one?
Just the reverse hollow Charizard.
Same scenario.
Right.
Because
and
it's hard.
It's hard to grade, and especially because the foil is the whole card.
Yeah.
It's actually got a pretty low population for a 10.
You have it at 10?
Well, what I just recently picked it up because what I noticed was I remember, because I used to look at these prices more often, that the reverse hollow Charizard, I remember at one point it used to be more than the regular hollow
Sure.
Zard.
Yeah.
And at some point they were just kind of even price, but both like, over $1,000.
Okay.
And then I recently saw a reverse hollow at auction, and it was only at the like $400 or $500 range. And I was like, all right, let me watch this auction because it's almost about to end. And I think I ended up snagging it for like somewhere between $500 or $600. And I was like, wow, I got it well below $1,000. And what's funny is there's no way I could spend that same money on packs of XY Evo,
Right.
hoping to pull the reverse hollow Charizard and hoping that it's in like pristine, gem mint condition. So I was like, okay, that's a good pickup. And now I'm like, yeah, like if I were going to spend the money to get the PSA 10, XY Evo Zard, I'm just going to have to save for that because I think that's still, I don't know, like $2,000 or $3,000.
It is. It hasn't gone up. It has been $3,000 for the past like 4 years.
Okay.
So that's a part of it is that it used to be $3,000 during the pandemic, and it's still $3,000 now.
That's impressive that it hasn't gone down
or up.
I guess. Yeah.
Both ways.
Why? Yeah. Why do you think? What do you think explains the non-movement of an older card for so long? Just not enough people like talking about that card?
Yeah, that's I would say a big part of it is that there's no excitement in that specific card. It's still a cool card. It's still a $3,000 card, but and that's a really nice number already.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot for it to go to a $5,000 or $10,000 card. You need a lot of prestige or notoriety around of it.
Yeah.
If you look at some of the cards that have been jumping up in price, right? Like the Latias and Latios or the Mario Pikachu, those are cards that people like bring up all the time in conversation.
Right.
But no one's bringing up, hey man, XY Evolution's Charizard PSA 10. What do you think?
Yeah,
it doesn't have the same kind of conversation to it.
Right. It's funny you mentioned that. It's like the conversation piece is lacking because it technically is the same artwork as the OG base set.
Yeah.
There's not really anything lending itself to being in conversation. I do like the holographic pattern of the XY Evo era, which is why, and you know what? This is probably also why it's not growing. It's like, I would also like a base set Charizard in a PSA 10.
Yeah.
That's at what, maybe 7,000 or 8,000?
Yeah. And a PSA 9, like base set unlimited Charizard, is only $1,500.
Correct.
That's so affordable.
So I have a 9 already in my collection that I got when it was like below 1,000.
Sure.
And so that's gone up. I do understand why 9s would go up because 10s just seem so unreachable. But when I think about, would I spend $3,000 to add a PSA 10 XY Evo Zard to my collection, or should that chunk of 3,000 just if I double it, if I just add a couple more like grands to it, I can almost essentially just buy the OG base set Charizard in a 10. And I bet you the reason there's not a lot of movement or growth in the XY Evo Zard is if you're already willing to shell out 3,000 for that one, you kind of get to this point where you're almost like, if I just save up a little more, or if I put some money away in a couple months, I could almost just buy the OG Charizard.
Right. And I think that's fair, is that for the exact same price or similar price, there's just better price cards that are a little bit more prestigious, right? They stand out in your collection, or they pop a little bit more than the XY Evo Charizard.
Yeah.
It's still expensive, but you gotta almost explain the value, because you have to almost talk about it. You have to say, no, you don't understand. It's a PSA 10, the population report's really low, let me show this to you, now you see the value. But if you have some other cards that are $3,000, like an Umbreon VMAX, people are like, whoa, you have that? That's so cool. It stands out immediately. You don't have to explain the coolness of the card.
I wonder why. I guess the coolness of the XY, Moonbreon has always been cool because ever since this craze of Pokemon, it's now seen as like the modern like Charizard, or the modern Chase, right?
Sure.
The tippity top of the mountain. And I wonder if that XY Evo Zard, when it came out, I just know people back then, they always tell me stories about how no one cared about XY Evo. Yeah. Like booster boxes were selling for under $80 a box.
Yeah, and we've talked about that, is that for older sets, they talk about that all the time, is sets get printed into the ground. And XY Evo was one of those. It was cool when it was released. When XY Evo released, and I was there during that time, people absolutely loved the set.
Wait, did they? I thought people said they hated it.
No, they loved it when it came out. But here's the thing. They printed XY Evo for 4 years straight. And there's only so much of chocolate or candy you can handle. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The first couple of hit, you're like, oh, that's sweet. That was delicious.
Okay.
But do you want your 5th chocolate bar of the exact same set? That's when you start saying, no, I've seen it enough. XY Evo was like that, where it came out right around the Pokemon Go era.
Okay.
And things went bonkers because you got XY Evo, it's base set all over again. Everyone's opening up OG cards.
Right.
But I open up XY Evo for 4 years straight, and I reach a point, and I can go back and watch like old videos of me 6 years ago, and I'm ripping open stuff or products, and there's like an XY Evo pack in there, and I'm like, oh god,
like,
another XY Evo pack.
For just future, because I do know that too. Like, right, when XY was done, you can look at a lot of the Sun and Moon boxes, because that's about when I got into the hobby. And if there's an XY pack in it, what it is a XY Evo pack. Yeah. And it's like, it was always that XY Evo, like, it's kind of funny. They don't do that so much anymore. Like, even with Scarlet Violet boxes, there's not a random, like, oh, this contains a Sword and Shield pack inside.
Yeah, I definitely think the Pokemon Company has learned some of their lessons from older sets, and they're trying to not repeat them. It still happens from time to time. I would say, like, that same incident happened with Shining Legends. Shining Legends was like a super small set. It had the ETB has Ho-Oh in front of it. Yeah. Shining Legends has like 70 cards inside of the set. It's a super small set, and they overprinted it because...
Wait, 70 including the inner shiny vault?
Yeah. There isn't a ton.
Oh, you're right, because it's just Shining Rayquaza. I was thinking of Hidden Fates. You're right. Shining Fates just has Shining, like, Ho-Oh.
Yeah, Hidden Fates is great.
Genesect.
Shining Legends did not have a ton of shiny Pokemon inside of it.
Right.
It had a couple of Shining. They call them Shining. They didn't even call it Shiny or whatever. But it was a very small set. If you open up like 2 or 3 ETBs, you see repeats again and again pretty quickly. So people got sick of the set. But what happens with those sets is that they kept printing more and more. Actually, this happened with so many other sets. It also happened with Generations, because what happens with these sets is they release and people are really, really excited for them. But they kept printing more and more and more and more and more. And there were just so many products down the line that at a certain point they went on fire sale. Like I can still remember picking up like Shining Legends and Generations from Walmart for half off.
And you know what's wild about that? I don't see that stuff out even as prevalent as XY Evo.
Right.
Like, you don't just see Shining Legends packs or Generations packs just at every person's booth. Like, right. I would love to open up some Generations, because I think even in my entire time getting back into the hobby, I have maybe opened up a handful, like maybe 5 packs of Generations. And I've opened up more base set since I've been back in the hobby. Than Generations. So it's just kind of like, why is that? If it was printed so much like you're saying it was, why is it so hard to find? I mean, the most I've seen is in Rudy's videos in his bathroom sitting in a box.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Like for Alpha Investment, those sets were unsellable. He bought a ton of those, like Generations and XY Evolutions and all that.
And now it's like...
And he was so angry at them because they were garbage. For a long time, they weren't worth it. Because if you bought them at retail price or distributor prices, which we talked about, they went under distributor price. Yeah. So you bought it for 90, it's selling for 80, or 70 even. So if you sold it, you lost money. That's why he was so angry about it in his basement or bathroom.
Right.
Or whatever.
And people, and guys, that's why I always say, I know I've said this in a previous podcast, but remember, your biggest come-ups will almost always come from like accidental happiness. Do you get what I mean by that?
Sure.
Like, people always think that they can, like, especially people that are like treating Pokemon as like stocks or whatever. It's like, it's not so much about someone having the knowledge to be like, oh, I'm going to buy this set and I know it's going to be worth way more later. Sometimes you just buy sets cheap, or you buy things without realizing, like, you may think you're losing at the time, in the sense that, dude, I remember going to card shows where people were dumping Fusion Strike on me. And to try to buy other things, they were like, I don't want to sell it to you at that price. And I'm like, come on, please. Like, I think this is fair. And they're like, look, if you take these 2 Fusion Strike booster boxes from me for $80, I'll agree to that price. And I'll be like, fine. And it would be at times when, like, I didn't need more Fusion Strike. And now, right now, I still have those Fusion Strike boxes, and they're way up. And so it's just like, it was almost like a blessing in disguise that guy, forced those boxes on me. And so that's like a lot of what I think is in, Rudy's bathroom, especially, is like the just like these happy accidents where he was like, ugh, it sucks that I have like all this garbage, and then it just became gold because now not a lot of people have it.
You don't even have to go that far back. I think just 6 or 7 months ago, we were seeing Scarlet and Violet base booster boxes and Paradox Rift booster boxes going for $80 a box. That wasn't that long ago. That was like
got more of them.
Yeah, I picked up some because $80 a booster box of any set is a steal.
A good deal.
It's a straight up steal because you can't even pick them up from distributors for $80.
I know. And now I did not get enough Scarlet Violet base.
And the thing about Scarlet and Violet base, it's going for like $200 a box right now. And that one might actually be worth it. And the reason for that is because it's, from my understanding, it's not being reprinted. So whatever of it is out there is out there.
Yeah. If they're not going to reprint Scarlet Violet base, it's just like, I remember when the newest set was Paradox Rift or even Paldea Evolve, you were just like, Scarlet Violet base is a trash set. That's what everyone was saying.
And
everyone was saying it was overprinted. Remember, just like when Scarlet Violet
overprinted at that time. That's the thing, right? But the crazy thing about Pokemon is that because it's a growing hobby, all of that extra supply got consumed way faster than we expected it to. We thought like, it might be sitting around for 5 years. It sat around for a year, maybe.
Right.
But yeah, you and I don't have that good of an understanding of demand. That's the thing. Supply is really easy to see because you can physically see the supply.
Right.
But demand, it's really hard to poll or get a good understanding of how many people actually are going to pick it up every single day.
Demand,
right? Because we see like the numbers on like the Pokemon Center, like for the Destined Rivals ETB drop.
Yeah.
There were like 2 million people on the online queue. That's insane. It might be 2 million bots, but that's insane how many people are interested in that.
And you know what I realize? If 2 million people, like, we can confidently say there's millions of Pokemon fans globally, right?
Absolutely.
I realize something. I'm going to go ahead and just say this because I've just learned it from being in the hobby as long as I have. And, I want our listeners to get some benefit of, by listening to the Card Lounge. And so if there's any, kind of gem that me and Jake can drop on you guys, it's like, don't ever, when people say, this set is overprinted, this is the junk wax era, none of these cards are going to be worth anything later. Time and time again, like, history repeats itself, and we've never seen this printing issue with Pokemon ever. And I think what it is because, Jake touches on this, where when you look at demand in any one specific time frame, even if your scope is just 1 year, you forget about they're not only printing this set for people that are trying to open it right when the set comes out, but there will be people that enter the Pokemon hobby 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now. There's kids that are 6 or 7 that may not technically enjoy Pokemon cards yet, or they're too young, or maybe they're like 4 or 5, but once they become 6, 7, 8 years old, now suddenly they're really excited for Pokemon cards. And you have to remember, like, these are future fans of this card game, and Pokemon isn't just printing for now. Pokemon is printing for these future kids as well. And so there will always be an amount of demand that will consume up the supply. It just takes time. And so I honestly don't think Pokemon could ever really, like, truly overprint a set. They
can in the immediate moment, and that's okay. Like, you remember Shining Fates? At release, Shining Fates was really popular, and I remember there were lines of like 100 people at game stores picking it up, one ETB at a time. And the hype for that set was very good. It was during COVID era. But they kept printing more Shining Fates, more Shining Fates, more Shining Fates.
Yep.
And there was a certain point when you could walk into any Walmart and see a stack of Shining Fates ETBs on the shelves, and you might pass at $50 on ETB.
You'd pass on those, or you'd pass on the... You know what? I know what you're talking about. Like, 2 years later, you could still find the Cramorant. They're gone now.
Yeah, that's the thing. They were available
that
on
proves
store
my
shelves
point.
for months.
For years.
Yeah,
for
years.
Over 2 years later. Like, we're not finding Prismatic Evolutions on the shelves 2 years later, sitting on Walmarts. I mean, I hope so. If they print...
Yeah, I hope so too.
If they print some more ETBs, and if they print the UPCs or the SPCs, whatever.
We might get a UPC still. I'm hoping we also get a UPC of it.
Well, I mean, the SPC is how they make the UPCs.
Is it though? It's not the same as the UPC. It's missing a lot of like the elements of a true UPC.
It looks exactly like a Charizard UPC.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But I'm still hoping that we'll get a UPC this winter.
I mean, if they did that would be sick. But I think, how the Charizard UPC was just everywhere,
right.
and then right now it's obviously worth something. I mean, there's a ton of good Sword and Shield packs inside, but there was a moment in time when it was selling for less than what people paid to pre-order them. And I'm just wondering if they printed that many and all those Charizards were scooped up, and now even like right now it's tough to get a hold of that thing, or find it in the wild, someone selling it. I wonder if they could even print the amount of SPCs, UPCs required of Prismatic Evolutions for people to let it like sit on the shelves. Like, I don't know, because we also know there's so many people that have still yet to even get their hands on Prismatic Evolutions.
Right, based on the polls, most people still have not even opened up Prismatic Evolutions. And
nuts.
These are people that watch us. And if they're watching us, I'm assuming they're pretty deep in the hobby. These are not casual passerbys. And they still haven't even had a chance to open up a single pack of Prismatic, let alone like a good enough. So I get where you're coming from. And I would like to reach a point where Prismatic is just on a shelf. And if you and I see it, we might even pass on it. That would be a crazy experience.
Yeah, or a casual, if there's like if someone that's like, yeah, exactly, kind of into Pokemon, they just see a box of it on the shelves. The issue with it is there's no blister pack or booster pack version.
Right, which is
so
which is why I've talked about this, is that I want them to print a ton of the super premium collection.
Yeah.
But people don't really want all the other junk inside of them.
I know.
Like the amount of play mats and deck boxes that you and I, or sleeves that we have sitting around, because we just want the packs and we have to deal with all these other gimmicks. If they just print more booster bundles, that's all people really want. We just want more of the SIRs.
Yeah, some booster bundles would be good. I also know, so I just talked to my distro. Dude, we are getting such a small amount of the next item of Prismatic Evolutions. It's the one that has the little Eevee pouch.
Okay.
Dude, I don't even know if I'm getting more than a box of them.
That makes a little bit more sense. And
that's scary, though.
I agree with you. You should get more of those because you just want more packs. But like, because of the gimmick, right?
The pouch in it.
Right. That's the thing. Like, how many of those do they have to produce in China, or wherever they produce those, to shove inside of these products? That's the real problem. It's not. But right now, like, they're behind on every set, right?
Yeah.
Because people are saying, why don't they print more Prismatic? Well, part of it is they have to print more of every single set.
Yeah.
Because they need to print more of Twilight, Surging Sparks, Temporal. Everything is sold out, and they need all of it reprinted.
They need more printing factories. Like, if Pokemon just spent the money to buy another factory to just set up like 20 more printers so that they could just be like turning cardboard into paper money, it would just be like so good for their business. But I don't know how fast they can actually, like, do you think they are actively trying to buy more factories right now to increase their printing power?
No. And
why do you think they're not? Why would they not be?
I would say this from a pure business perspective, and they do own printing factories. We actually do know the Pokemon company does actually own printing factories. And the reason why I would say that they're more likely to lease it out or have someone else print for them. They'll just say, hey, people who already have printing factories, print more for us, because they don't know how long this demand could last for. And that's part of the forecasting. Is you might think it's always going to go up, but if there's a downturn and they don't keep their printers open consistently, suddenly now they're losing money.
It's not worth it. I mean,
right. And that's part of the risk and reward. Is I think it'll be faster for them to just hire a sublease it, like Wizard of the Coast. Wizard of the Coast, print some more of our products or something.
But then they lose out. See, I don't know. As a business, I think they need to realize, if you're trying to grow and get more cards out there.
Sure.
I think we've already proved that even if stuff goes, half price at the stores, people will buy it. I haven't seen a 50% off sticker on a Pokemon item since like a Rebel Clash ETB. And that was like right when I was getting back, well, no, I mean, I got back into the hobby before, but early on when I was back in, that's what the last thing I remember that had a for sale sticker on it was like Rebel Clash. And ever since then, I don't think I've seen any Pokemon product go to like discount.
I've seen discounts for sure. The highest is usually like 30 to 40%.
On what?
Oh, it's usually the products with the bad pack ratios. That's what it is, you know?
Sure.
Like the super premium Charizard collection. This thing went for $80 at retail. You can still pick it up on Amazon for $50. But it only comes with 7 packs. That's the thing.
Right, and I think they're also selling those at Costco now for like 40 or 50.
Yeah, these are still on discount, you know? But for $80, you would not pick this up for 7 packs.
I see what you're saying, but yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess does that consider that discount if it makes it to Costco and it's cheaper?
Oh yeah, if retail price for this box is $80 and it's selling on Amazon for $50, I would say that's a discount. But that's not a good deal, and we still see those. But that's there's like the Combined Powers collection with Lugia. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, dude, that's right. What, you've seen that on discount?
It is, because the reason is I think like full retail price on it is way higher. Same scenario where the pack to cost ratio isn't great.
Okay, I do remember them selling for a lot in stores, but
why do you think we should pick up the Combined Powers collection? Because I think those might still even be available in the Pokemon Center at full retail price.
If you could get it for under retail price, I think it's a good buy.
Because it comes with what packs?
I'll say this. I think even maybe it's getting to the point where it's going to be that thing where people are like, I don't want to buy this at retail, but about 2, 3, 4 months from now, you're going to wish you could have. Because I think it has 12 Sword and Shield packs in it. Or no, wait, it's a Scarlet Violet era set?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Wait, it's early Scarlet Violet stuff, but I think it has some Sword and Shield packs in it. It might. Because it's one of those, the first items that came out where it's got some of the tail end of Sword and Shield. Or unless I'm just remembering it like completely incorrectly. I know I have a video on my YouTube opening one.
Oh, it's super random. Sometimes like you can find like Evolving Skies packs inside of these or something.
Right.
But it's random.
That's
like,
what I'm saying. It's something like that. I want to say it's like it's got a certain amount of Scarlet Violet base, Obsidian Flames, and Paldea Evolve, which are now all strong packs. And maybe it's got some tail end like Lost Origin or Astral Radiance.
Oh yeah, it comes with 11 booster packs.
11? Okay, so that's
11 booster packs for $60.
That's okay. Wait, what are the packs though?
You don't know. It might be Scarlet and Violet base, Scarlet and Violet Obsidian Flames, or it could be Evolving Skies. Like that's part of the deal is that you don't know what you're getting.
What's in
and
there?
The pack to cost ratio is not great, but it's still available even on the Pokemon Center right now at full retail price.
Interesting.
And right now it's actually not that bad of a deal because $60 for 11 booster packs. If
it's
you spend
$5 a pack,
right? Like if you spend 180, I guess you're getting yourself close to a booster box worth in packs.
Yeah.
And most booster boxes are already going for $200 a box. So
yeah.
This is actually not that bad of a deal.
That's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm telling you. And it's been progressing towards that. It doesn't feel that bad, and I guarantee you, it won't even take a lot of time. In 2 or 3 months, people are gonna look back at this. This is gonna be one of those items people go, man, that was still available to buy at that price. I would have picked up 100 of them, but no one did.
All right, guys, you know what we're doing? I'm going to pick up 4 of these Combined Powers Premium Collection right now from the Pokemon Center at $60 a box. That's $240 for 44 packs. It's not even that bad of a deal.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not a great deal.
Yeah.
But it's not a bad deal either. That's
right.
That's how wild it is.
Right.
That yeah, this is one of like the last available product still on the Pokemon Center.
That's so funny. See, I feel like maybe I'm trying to think if I should buy some of those too, because it might be you're gonna get packs. I at least know where, right? If you buy 4 of them.
Well, I'm just thinking about like what's the worst possible packs I could get. Scarlet and Violet base, Paradox Rift.
I think that's it. Scarlet Violet
Obsidian
base.
Flames, maybe. Like those are like the weaker sets. And I'm like, even then, I'm like, oh, that's not even that bad.
Yeah, I mean,
if you can find like 1 Fusion Strike or 1 Evolving Skies, suddenly like it's way worth it.
Right, 3-4 months from now, those to get the same amount of those packs from booster boxes, or if you're like say you buy enough of those that you can just make a 36-pack booster box of those. You see what I'm saying? Like to try to buy that same booster box of all 3 of those sets will for sure cost you more than just buying a bunch of those combined powers.
One caveat on that is that for most of those sets, they're still being printed. We don't know when more restocks of it's coming. But true. Obsidian Flames booster boxes, Paradox Rift booster boxes might go back down to 150 or something like that.
But
so that's the scenario.
Well, I'll say this. Even if that happens, I think then again, that just means you wait a little longer and then eventually they'll go back up. Because again, that supply, if they print it, the demand will eat it up. Like over time, the demand just eats it up. And I know it does come with Scarlet Violet base, and if they don't reprint Scarlet Violet base, that might be one of the last available items that you can buy to just get a Scarlet Violet base pack at $4. You know what I mean? So
Sure, it might actually be. Well, hey, while we're getting close to the end of the podcast, there are some cool cards leaked for Team Rocket, the upcoming set.
Yeah,
Did you get a
Glory
chance
of
to see
Team
it?
Rocket.
Okay, the Japanese, right? That which makes sense. We will get them in English. It's the exact same card, pretty much. But we're getting the Giovanni's Moltres. I think that was the one that was shown off.
I think it's just a Rocket's Moltres. No, see, Moltres plus generic. I think what they're gonna do is they're gonna do a lot of the like Team Rocket grunts that like look different, and you know they're gonna. I don't know if they're gonna give them.
I would not have done that. If I was them, I would have made it more specific. Where there are Team Rocket grunts.
Is that a Rocket bad guy? I don't recognize. It's that guy.
You know, that might be from. I think that might be it, but yeah. For Team Rocket, I would personally say there are prominent members of Team Rocket, especially they flushed it out a little bit more in Johto. In Gen 2, which Team Rocket still is the evil team of. They gave it a couple more like pizzazz.
Yeah, and give names.
But they're not as important. They're not that memorable.
I actually think it's interesting why they don't just like we know from the show like Jesse and James
But Jesse and James are not like prominent. They are prominent in the show, but they're not prominent in Team Rocket. Does that make sense? They're more of like has-beens, or like they're barely official team members.
Okay, right, and that's how they're supposed to be. I know, but they're so. I mean, it just is funny that we don't have like a Jesse's Arbok.
I agree.
Or
I think that'd
James
be cool.
is wheezing. I think, and like doing an SIR of such an iconic, because we just know those Pokemon pair with those guys.
And I know like Arbok and like Coughing and Wheezing are going to be in this set because they're on the booster box art.
Right.
So when you showed me that, I thought it was literally Giovanni. It looks similar enough in the style that I thought it was him, because who else in Team Rocket looks like that? I don't think anyone.
Well, it'll be like, because again, if they're not doing dark Pokemon, which I think we haven't seen any like dark Pokemon yet, then what they're going to do is like, if it's just going to be like Gym Challenge, where you know how they had Rocket's Mewtwo and it was just a generic Rocket's Grunt, but they also had, you remember the Rocket Zapdos card?
Yeah.
Because they reprinted that for the 25th anniversary celebrations. I think it's really cool now that we might get a special card for Rocket's Moltres, and I think there's also going to be a Rocket's Articuno.
Yeah, I'm down for that. A Team Rocket's Bird Trio would be a good idea.
Yeah, that'll be sick. And then just to see like what kind of illustration rares might come out.
This card might get an illustration
guys.
rare based on the fact that it's got a full art version that usually hints at a SIR version.
Yes.
So we'll have to see how that card looks. And someone in the comment section is going to be like, "What, dude? You don't remember Bruce from Team Rocket or something?" I'm sure these people have names.
It might be something like that.
But we just don't know the name of these people.
Right.
Jake, it's clearly Team Rocket's Logan, who appeared in episode 284 of this one series.
Aren't there two like
there are actual like secondary members of Team Rocket, but I'll be honest,
the
they're
two
not
that have
important.
names. I don't know why Cassidy is like
Butch and Cassidy.
Butch and Cassidy. Is that what their names were?
I don't think that's them, though.
I don't think that's them, but you know,
the better version of Jesse and James, supposedly.
That, right. And it could be something like that. Like if there's a Rocket member that has a prominent name, it'll be like Butch's Moltres, which sounds weird.
I think from the purpose of the game or the TCG, they separate it from the anime. Like the anime has their own thing or like their own like series,
right?
And it's not canon to the games,
right? Which is why you're not.
TCG is focused on the games.
Yeah, and that's why you're not Ash in the game. I do get that you know the anime is its own right.
Because the anime Team Rocket is kind of silly. But in the game, I think like they're much more like serious, and there are official members of Team Rockets that are way more serious in the game. Yes. And less so in the anime.
They're more like sinister.
Right. Like they actually have a master plan that they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird because some of the teams, like, they're literally trying to destroy or completely change the world in mind-boggling ways. Like,
I think it'll be interesting. I think there's already a lot of hype for the Rocket set. I think Glory of Team Rocket will be fun to open. It'll be interesting to see when the illustration rares, you know, start to slowly come out. And yeah, I mean, guys, we'll keep you up to date on new cards that are coming out. You know, new information on the new sets that'll be dropping. And yeah, guys, that's been another episode of the Card Lounge, and thanks for listening.
All right, peace out, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys next time.